On today's Real Talk, we discuss how prophets are not perfect. They are for sure not.
Absolutely, and we talk about the Big Ten, the 10 Commandments. Are they still relevant today? Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to Real Talk, Come Follow Me. We are so grateful that you have joined us this week. Hi, John.
Hi, Galen.
We're excited because it's Exodus 18 through 20, which feels like easy peasy compared to all the other chapters, right?
And we got the Big 10 Commandments today. That's a big one.
Some good stuff.
Yeah.
But we kind of want to start out with a theme in Exodus 18, which is a conversation that's happening between Moses and his father-in-law, which, I don't know, right there, you already know there's going to be some real talk, right?
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
Probably, right?
Yeah, there's a real talk dynamic for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So in verse 15, and Moses said unto his father-in-law, because the people come unto me to inquire of God, when they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another, and I do make them know the statutes of God and his laws. And Moses' father-in-law, this is in verse 17, said unto him, the thing that thou doest is not good. And I'm just like, oh, I love real talk. And then verse 24, if you jump down, so Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. And
to his credit.
To his credit.
I mean, he's the prophet.
Right. And here his father-in-law's like, hey, can I a little steady the arc here, right? And let you know, I mean, not to jump ahead in what stories are coming, but can I tell you that you need a little course correction here or some feedback? And I think what's beautiful about this is at this point, Moses, as the prophet, could have said, I'm the prophet. I don't even know why, step back.
Right.
But he received that. And prophets aren't perfect. We've talked about it on Real Talk before, and I think especially Old Testament gives us a lot of material to work with on this, right?
Yeah.
Neil A. Maxwell said, in a kingdom where perfection is an eventual expectation, each other's needs for improvement have a way of being noticed. Perceptive Jethro, which is reference to this story, had plenty of data to back up the crisp counsel. Don't you love Neil A. Maxwell?
Yeah.
He's all crisp counsel.
Every line is a sermon.
Every line. He gave his son-in-law Moses. Even prophets noticed their weaknesses. Nephi persisted in a major task, which was not withstanding my weakness. Another Nephite prophet, Jacob, wrote candidly of his over-anxiety for those whom he was not certain he could communicate adequately. And our present prophet has met those telling moments when he has felt as if he could not meet a challenge, yet he did. And this is 1976, so President Kimball?
Oh, don't ask me that.
Okay, I think so. Yes? Yeah. We're getting a nod from someone smarter in the studio. So I think this is such a beautiful example of, we've just had General Conference. There may have been things said.
Right.
Prophets are not perfect.
Yeah, there does seem to be, after every conference, sort of some triggers for certain people, right? And I get it. Sometimes, I've had moments, in all transparency and candidness, where I wish a certain doctrine or principle was explained it differently, where, I'm like, I brace myself, oh, here we go. My phone's about to blow up by,
So-and-so.
Yeah.
Saying such and such.
But we'll just come back to what you were saying. If you have the expectation for prophets to be perfect, you did not get that expectation by studying the Old Testament.
No.
Prophets are not perfect. And I would just direct our viewers and our listeners to read and study a little more Doctrine and Covenants, section 1. Now, they're always going to want to go to verse 38 that says, whether by mine own voice or the voice of my servants, it's the same. The more critical verses come earlier on where God says, I'm going to call these men in their weakness. They're going to make mistakes. It even says they're going to sin from time to time. And then I use this phrase, it says in verse 28, but don't worry, whenever they make a mistake, I'll correct them. It's going to be okay. And I will speak to them from time to time. That's what it says, right? And so it's not always these poor prophets and apostles, the pressure we put on them to be 100%
so
perfectly speaking God's will in every context, every second of the day, even in their closet, whew. I don't know where that came from, but that is not scriptural, not even in restoration scriptures. And so I hope that we will look for the divine thread and the inspired message and all the words of our prophets, because it's my testimony that God speaks through prophets. That doesn't mean that every word they say every day is, profound, perfectly truth prophecy, It's just, it's our hard work to discern the divinity in all the words.
And feeling joyful that God is working with the imperfection
100%.
of me.
Right.
So it
Right.
makes, am I willing to make room for that in my church leaders?
How about hold that same expectation of perfection on ourselves?
For sure,
Right.
for sure. I was thinking about, as you were just talking about that, I don't know if I've shared this on Real Talk before, but President Monson is our cousin. And so we had Thanksgiving dinner one year, and it was the year his biography came out. And afterwards, our son, who's now 24, was, I think, 15 or 14 at the time. And he was like, yeah, that was just like our cousin. And I'm like, yeah, because he was having Thanksgiving dinner with us and mashed potatoes. Like it wasn't, we sat on the couch and talked about the Rome temple and right. But he was seeing him within a context that was different. It's like, he has turkey and mashed potatoes.
What a great blessing.
Right.
To feel the humanity and realness.
Yes, when you hear him speak
God.
as the prophet, there's a mantle on that. And not that mantle is removed, but he's having a human experience as well, right?
I love it.
Exodus 19, we're going to tease you. You're going to have to join Real Talk in a few weeks because there's a whole bunch of a temple-like experience that people are not ready for. Moses wants to get his people ready for it. They're not. We're going to pick it up later in a few weeks.
A whole lot of temple coming your way in.
Yeah, we didn't.
Latter Exodus and Leviticus.
Right. We didn't want to kind of brush over it because for us it's kind of a shared passion. So as we jump to Exodus 20, we just didn't want you to feel like we weren't aware of there was some big things happening there. We are aware. But we do want to jump to what then comes after this kind of failed experience, that there is a Big 10 coming, right?
Yeah.
Scott Sorensen, who Real Talkers.
Shout out, Scott. We love you and we miss you.
Yeah, shout out to Scott. He talks about in his book that the Big 10, the 10 Commandments, are about love. And I love that kind of idea of the lens of looking at commandments as a relationship building instead of what are we doing? Is it relationship building? But I'd like to take it into a little bit of a different direction, that the 10 Commandments are a communal commandment list, right? It's about everyone. There are personal commandments that we've each had experiences where we can apply certain things in a different way. Verses 3, 4, and 5, right, are talking about not having any graven images and not putting any gods before us. And that in verse 5, that the Lord thy God is a jealous God, right? And is he really jealous? Is he super
he just
worried?
loves you more than anybody else.
Right, and he wants to be your number one because you're his number one.
Yeah.
And I really love the idea of what President Bednar, and I say president because at the time he was president of a university, right?
Yeah.
He said, it is one thing to obey the institutional, public, and shared commandments, which the 10 Commandments are, associated with the Lord's kingdom on earth. Commandments such as the law of chastity, the law of tithing, the word of wisdom. It is an even greater thing to receive and respond to the individual, private, and personally revealed commandments that result from continual and faithful obedience. And I just would say that for me, over the years, I've had different personal applications of certain commandments that for me needed application, but they were by no means a statement or a sermon for anyone else. I mean, I did a social media post a few weeks ago about really wanting to stay in bed and not go to church Sunday. It had been a rough week.
Never happens to me.
Rob he had been really sick, and I was like single mom in it. No offense to those real single moms that are there, but it had been a tough week professionally and personally, and I almost wanted to just watch online church, right? Yeah. And this is coming to me real time because I posted later that I got my dress on and went to church and had a really beautiful experience. And when I posted about how I needed to worship with, and I needed to sit with other saints, and I needed to partake of the sacrament with my ward family, I had some pushback well, online church is real church. And I was like, whoa.
Right.
I'm so grateful for online church.
Not what you were saying.
Not what I'm saying. I'm saying for me that day, I checked in with God, and he was kind of like, I need you to put on your dress and you need to go. You could watch it from home, but
it was for your benefit.
It was for my benefit. And I think that's just an application for me that day. And I'm not saying he hasn't said on other Sundays, you know what? It's wiser for you to be home today and not go to church. So any thoughts on personal commandments?
Yeah, I think the Big Ten, those definitely take trust and faith to follow. But personal commandments, those take a whole other level of trust and faith to follow. Those spiritual, personal promptings that God gives you that usually relate to application of these bigger 10, right? Sort of, they're branches of the bigger 10, but those take a lot of trust. I think of trust falls. Personal commandments, following personal commandments, those personal revelations we get are like trust falls.
Like in ropes course when you're falling
that's how they
backwards?
feel to me. It's like, we're not allowed to do these anymore in the classroom because of too many injuries through the years.
Where the trust fall
I'm not
fell,
kidding. Yes,
failed?
broken noses, all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
But trust fall, you stand there and a group stands behind you and you just close your eyes and you just have to put your hands across your chest and just fall backward like a plank and trust they'll catch you. It's terrifying, right? That to me is the nature. That's how I feel sometimes when I act on personal commandments. It's so much trust. And so I've come up with something I tell my students that's really catchy, and I'm going to make a t-shirt out of this.
Okay. News breaking here.
Yes.
This is a soon-to-come t-shirt from John.
Yeah, if you use this and make money, we'll have to talk about it. But
Royalties to you.
I like to say that life is a series of trust falls into the arms of Jesus.
I like it.
I love it, right? It just makes me feel like, and every time I do it, he catches me. I have no doubt. And so personal commandments, those are tough. Those are tough. 10 commandments, that's hard enough, but personal commandments, whew,
Yeah.
what's the Spirit telling me to do?
Yeah. What else do you want to say about the 10 Commandments? Because,
Yeah, I'd love to talk about commandments as reality statements.
Okay.
And I'll explain what I mean there. I'm thinking of Alma 41. And we're familiar with Alma 41, where Alma's speaking to his son Corianton, who's been on a mission, and he ran off with a prostitute while he was a missionary. So we're going to just say...
I love the scriptures.
We're just going to say that's not quite the ideal that we're used to in terms of missionary service, but it happened.
And it happens.
Right, and it still happens, right? And so things like this happen. Corianton repents, wants to change. You got to kind of fill in some gaps here based on what Alma is teaching Corianton. Like, why would he be teaching
The
in this?
context.
Yeah, and it seems like Corianton's saying, all right, so I messed up, big deal, I'm not going to do it anymore, so let's just move on. And Alma's like, okay, true, obviously we need to move on, it's fine, but I sense you're not understanding something, and you're not understanding the reality of what Alma calls the nature of happiness. So I like to think about this condition we call happiness, okay? And I just want all of us to think about what we attach to the condition we refer to as happiness. When I feel happy, I feel fill in the blank. And I just want you to take note of the things that come to your mind. For me, the things that characterize happiness start with peace. I feel peace. I feel rest. I feel confident. I feel joy. I feel stability. I feel clarity.
I was just going to say clarity.
Yeah. All those things are associated
Fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's also the condition that everyone on planet Earth is trying to achieve. That's why we do what we do.
And they buy products and read books and...
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
we look to a million different sources to try to achieve this condition
Of happiness.
we call happiness. And Alma wants Corianton to understand that condition, that nature of happiness, is based on some realities. It's not a relative thing. It's not like...
Hit and miss.
And it's not arbitrary. It's not like,
yeah.
you do what you want to do and you'll be happy, I'll do what I do and I'll be happy.
Are you sure though? Because that's pretty much the narrative of modern culture.
It is your truth, my truth.
Yeah, you do you.
So I'm talking here about big T truths. Now we could go on a long discussion, but we won't. But let's use an example, and the most common example is gravity, right? Let's say you and I stand on the edge of a cliff, okay? We have very differing beliefs about gravity. I am a non-believer. I don't believe in gravity, okay? But you believe in gravity.
Because I've done some trust falls.
You're just righteous. I'm not. I don't believe in gravity. You do. Our differing beliefs will have little to no effect on what happens when we both step off that cliff. Unless, of course, your belief in gravity led you to put on a parachute. I want you to think about that. But our belief, truth doesn't care. There are certain truths in the universe, it just doesn't care. That's not like calloused or anything. It's just reality. Gravity doesn't care whether you believe in it or not.
It's going to be obedient to the law.
Right.
Yeah.
It is a law.
Yeah.
Happiness, this condition we call happiness, is based on
So good.
just sort of, well, here it is, and this is what I want to emphasize.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this twice.
So that in case you didn't listen the first time.
Our level of happiness will never exceed our level of commitment to live what we honestly believe is right and real and true. I'm going to say it one more time. Our level of happiness will never exceed our level of commitment to live what we honestly believe is right, real, and true. So, do my current choices reflect accurately what I honestly believe? Or am I trying to push some agenda onto the universe? This is the way I'm going to live, and I want happiness to be the fruit of it. That's just not reality. And if we lived in reality more, we would be, Alma 32, experimenting on the word.
Always.
And being honest about the effects in this
The fruit
laboratory of
of it.
life, right? I did this, and my quality of life went down. I did this, and my quality of life went up. And no one can make this determination for me but me, and no one can make it for you but you. That sort of honest assessment of quality of life. What's happening to my quality of life as I engage in these choices or pursue these beliefs?
Because the Spirit witnesses truth.
Truth, reality.
And I'm thinking about having Brother Bonner on one of our Friends episodes where he talks about this. Maybe this is a little switch of what you're trying to share, but it brings to mind that he witnessed that the more he learned of problematic true history of the church regarding
Right.
blacks and slaves, the more he had the Spirit witness the truthfulness of the gospel. And he was having this moment of like, wait, shouldn't I be like more bothered, more upset?
Yeah.
And not that some of the things didn't need a wrestle, but he realized that the more he learned that was the true history, the more Spirit could witness that it was truth.
Just truth.
And his testimony actually grew stronger, not weaker. And I was sitting there like with my mouth open as he was testifying of this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what? And it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is the Spirit can't lie.
Truth has a taste, has a feel to it that we all know. Everybody knows it inherently, innately. And and those words describe it that we talked about earlier. That peace, that rest, that confidence, that
Clarity.
self-worth, that clarity. I want to give a throwback quote to the first general conference I ever listened to in October of 1993. And
I love that you know exactly the date.
and it was then Elder Nelson, Russell M. Nelson, he said this: "Try as they might, no parliament or Congress could ever repeal the law of Earth's gravity or amend the 10 Commandments. Those laws are constant. All laws of nature and God are part of the everlasting gospel. Even though one's understanding of the truth may be fragmentary, truth itself doesn't change. Everlasting truth and wisdom come from the Lord. From generation to generation, God has given additional light. Whether truth comes from a laboratory of science or directly by revelation, truth is embraced by the gospel." So look, I don't care about being right or wrong. I just want truth because truth equals happiness. And if my life is in line with truth, I will find joy. If it's not, I won't. It's really simple. And I think the more basic we can make it, I don't know, the more happy we'll be.
Well, and I'm thinking about as parents, can we pray then as the Borden shared with us on that episode, which for me is one of the hallmark reminders as a mom, to pray that your kids come to that truth.
Yeah.
And then like take hands off the wheel on how that experimenting upon the word looks. And that doesn't violate their agency. Because I want to pray away agency.
Right.
And I think if we're talking about commandments, right, we're like, well, you didn't check that box in this commandment, and how should you do this? And really, can we trust that we're on the process of coming to that truth?
Yeah. And I think that most of our understanding what's true and what's not takes place just by us experiencing natural consequences, right? And we got to trust that when we let our kids just kind of, natural consequences will teach them. That's not going to increase quality of life, or it will.
Yeah.
If it's true, if it's real, it will lead to a greater quality of life.
So I'm hearing all the parents that are hurting because they're like, but it's painful to watch that process.
I hear you. Yeah.
I would just do a shout out for having some faith friends in your life, because my faith friends know they're going to get the phone call sometimes at midnight where it's like, I want to stay in a place of love and I want to honor someone I love, their agency. Help me process this pain, this fear, this anxiety, or whatever, so that I step out of the way. Just a shout out to those that are like,
Absolutely.
I know, but it's so hard to watch
Absolutely.
when we're worrying and we want our kids to do more of a direct shot. Like, why do you have to do the zigzag? And I love your example of Alma and his son, where he's like, wait, I'm glad you repented, but did you see the lesson there?
Right, there's consequences, and those are real. Those are real.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good segue into our invitation.
Okay,
What do you
let's
think?
do it. Let's do it. I think it's a good invitation.
Our invitation this week, we would invite you to take time to ponder or to journal about the following question. And it's really simple. Does your current lifestyle align with what you honestly believe is true? That's it. Just do some self-assessment there. And it's our testimony that the more we can align our choices with what is real and what is true, the greater the joy that will come into our lives. Thank you for joining us today on Real Talk, and we hope to see you next time. Do you like Real Talk? Come follow me.
Then like and subscribe.